Hi, it's Jacquie Cohen Roth, founder and CEO of CannabizMD, a social enterprise, and TPAD, a nonprofit that's focused on empowering equitable participation in the cannabis industry. Overarching, my focus is to fill the void of cannabis science and policy education between the two organizations. And again, with that really critical important focus on creating an equitable industry. So I'm really excited for a couple of reasons today for this most recent Cannabis MD that we're recording on, what is that, I think February 2024, right, Tahir?
It's today.
We
That's
got it.
today. So
Yeah.
crazy. It's 2024
It's
though.
nuts, it is so crazy, and so really excited to do this with you, to hear that we just got on. I told you that no questions were sent ahead of time. You and I have known each other for a bit in the industry, pioneers. We
Yeah,
earned this, right?
for
And
sure.
it has not been easy. And it's just congratulations to you for everything that's going on in your life. So to hear, you are the keynote speaker of February 24th, Cannabis MD, the Maryland Cannabis Industry Symposium, Elements of Success. And you're going to be their keynote with Roadmap for Success. And the roadmap, it's a wild one. No, that I know. My personal one. You and I have been friends for a bit. I went into the Tahir archives, and
Oh yeah, I got that same. Still got that
yep,
same poster, man.
yep.
Wow.
So and then if I could figure out how to share my screen right, but some photographs. Let me give it a go if this would work.
Let's see what
I'm
you
one of
got.
those with
Let's see what you
50,
got in the vault.
yeah, one of those with 50 million tabs open. So this is,
Hey, look at that,
yeah,
man.
look at that one.
I remember that actual day. That's
Yeah,
It was
it,
cold out there. It was real
it
cold.
was cold. It was really
Man,
cold.
I remember that coat I had on was not warm enough, trying to look cool.
I remember you being cold. Yeah, and I bundled up. And you know what? Is that I could have sworn it was during session. And I looked in, diving into this, and this was the date was December
I saw
20.
that in the corner. Yeah, December 29th.
Yeah. And
Wow.
let me see if I can figure out how to get the other one of us. Let's see.
Talk about the time and investment that it takes for advocacy to come through. This picture of advocating for social equity in Maryland cannabis in 2019, and we're
Right?
2024 today.
Yeah. Can you see? I don't know if this popped up. If I did it right. New share. Nope. Wait. This was TPAD, August 2019.
Yeah. Yo,
Yep.
wow. Yeah,
Yep.
that was one of the early ones.
Right. It was. It was actually the second one. So TPAD launched as a social enterprise in May 2019, a first one in Baltimore at a BWI. What was it? A Weston that we followed up, a Cannabis MD program on innovation in the industry that in hindsight was really, really early. And that was 2019. But
Yeah.
nobody was talking about innovation and technology,
Mm.
really, unless you were in the industry. And then let's see. Oh, let's see. And then this was the last time we were together.
Hey, look at
Yeah. And that was so much fun. And that was when you were the keynote at TPAD, September 22, after Cannabis MD, Cannabis Science and Policy Forum.
that was a good one. That was a good
Yeah,
one.
that was
But it's
fun.
great, man. Jackie, it's been 5 years. Can you believe it?
Yeah. So I do remember the first time you met, and I want to see if it is the same memory.
Let's
The
see. The first one, did
the
we
first,
first did we first meet at the one of the training classes for Maryland?
oh, maybe.
Or was it one of the or was it like one of the net like one of the events or something like
No,
that?
you know what? Okay, that's better memory. Maybe I am older than you, so that's my onset hitting.
Or
But
was it because we met before I got to NCIA, right?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I remember having coffee with you in Annapolis at Baltimore Coffee,
Yes.
which I don't know if it still exists or not. But you were the skinny dude. You had a suit on. And
Always, always. 'Cause I was you like back in the days, I was fresh out of finance. I had
right?
broken out of
Yeah,
this, so I was still super professional every time
yeah,
somebody saw me.
yes, yeah,
Listen, man. Now I've finally broken out of it after all of the, because it's like at least 10 years wearing suits every day. So now I'm much more comfortable now. I've gotten it out my system.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that is that time, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but to dress for success, it
Well,
really does
and I'll say
matter.
that's true. I wouldn't take it back because I think that's, to be honest, one of the things that helped to set me apart. I think early on, I was always approaching the industry kind of like, top level professionalism that I could because I thought that was important,
Yes,
especially because it's weed, right? And I think that was
yes,
one of the ways I wanted people to take me seriously. I think even now, one of the things I think about, because when you think about coming from the professional world, you work so hard to build that up that I think it was even years before I even felt comfortable talking about having weed charges and all these other things because you don't want it to take away or detract from, how people perceive you in that professional way. So it's a blessing to be able to get to where you could be comfortable kind of being in your skin regardless of how you.
right. As I was just going to say, literally in your own skin. And, and I too have, well, I'm wearing a blazer today, but home office, but
You get fly, you throw it on like that last one. You had the leopard
oh,
on.
that's so, yeah, I mean, it is. I do say, fashion is, I mean, it's my thing, it's how I express my creativity. Also, doing things like creating and working with T-Pad, that whole branding thing. Just sidebar on that. So our logo for T-Pad is named Eulalia. And that whole story is really cool behind that. Cab Calloway's grandmother, actually, her name is Martha, or was Martha Eulalia Reed, and she was a school teacher. In Baltimore in the early 20th century. I figured out when Cab dropped his first album, doing this, figuring everything out of the timeline because T-Pads were weed speakeasies. This is where it's really easy to explain it. In the 1920s and 30s, when cannabis, well, the 30s, 1937, when cannabis became illegal, but T-Pads popped up in Harlem. These are spaces where folks of all racial background got together, enjoyed weed, drank, danced, and American jazz was born, which is the music and lyrics being the foundation of the civil rights movement. So I got this idea in my noggin that I thought, launch this I did launch it as a social enterprise, and where it's live jazz, good eats, plentiful libations, and provocative conversation, which always happens. And then you experienced it, and people get together. Nothing infused yet. Yeah,
Almost there, right?
right. People step outside maybe and do their own thing, but not yet TPAT itself. So yeah, and the connections that we have in the industry, like we even through, I was actually she's probably the nicest lady in the industry. Bless her soul, is Linda Mercado Green.
Oh man, I miss
Yeah.
so much. As a matter of fact, you saying that reminds me, I owe her a text back, but I try to come home and try to get with Linda. I call her my auntie, man. Every
Yeah.
chance I get when I come back home. She's another one of those people that's been a day one inspiration, for me. So I'm thankful to have people like y'all in my corner, man.
Yeah, you do. You
As it's
do.
always a special for me. And that, I think that's probably one of the things early on that we connected on with my dad, being a jazz singer and all of that. So I love how you just bring the culture but it's like the education behind it, right? So
Right.
people learn
Right.
with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's what we have our people ask me how long you've been in the industry, and I say decades. As I was in the retail side, and I've been smoking weed on and off since I was 13. Usually don't refer to it as weed, but we are amongst friends. I am
Mhm.
a medical cannabis patient. It has saved my life in so many different ways. Using it as a patient, and then this past summer growing it. As I say, this crazy white lady growing weed. I had my two clones, Louise and Sister Ruth, outside next to my hydrangeas and hostas, but dropping science, dropping policy, drop in the policy part is that I'm growing cannabis, this plant, marijuana plant, that people, Black and brown men, have been in jail for a really long time for doing far less
Yeah.
than
How
growing
did it turn
plants.
out though? Was it fire?
Oh, it's great. I will tell you.
That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, the next step is so harvested and being I've got the master's of science in cannabis. So I'm a scientist, right? And I've been in the clinical space forever. My father was a physician. He really inspired me with science. And in any event, so the next step is to get a COA. And where when I harvested them, I harvest them at different times. One had a wash, one didn't, but I grew them organically. But it works, it does well, or they do. And it's a sativa leaning, it's a ginger snap cultivar. And so, this is one of the things I want to talk about as well as microdosing. And, just how bringing in the science is that one of the things that many of us in the industry, we're here because of absolutely the science, the advocacy, the policy, the education, but we also enjoy cannabis.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so tell me about what's your use. How do you like to ingest? What's your favorite delivery method? Getting into the science wise of this all?
So for me, I am a good old fashioned flower and a blunt type of person.
Yeah.
One of the things early on when I got into cannabis, I really wanted to kind of learn all the different kind of different methods. So I know how to grow. I got I guess shout out to Oaksterdam. I got a certificate in cultivation from Oaksterdam. That was one of the first things I did. But I also learned how to make a lot of different, I guess, products. Like I could make like tinctures. I used to make all different types of edibles. Like different stuff like that. Kind of like I said, just experimenting. Wanting to learn and do everything you can. Right? It's like you said, cannabis. There's so much knowledge, so much
Oh,
stuff to consume.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it's really important to try to find like what your kind of little niche is, right? And for me, it was like kind of always having this background in business, but really it was mostly the advocacy part, right? And
Mhm.
that was something that I was actually having this conversation with somebody yesterday. For me, that came naturally because it was something that I already did. Like I was
Yes.
always active in social
Yeah.
justice. And when I found cannabis, it was such a good an issue that was close and near and dear and home to me that I could be passionate about it. And and it's like you said, still very early on in the business. It's so closely connected. So that was big important for me. But like I said, I love weed. I've always loved weed. And the fact that we get to be like a professional person in the cannabis industry, and this is our life, just kind of living, doing this every day, it makes it worth it. This is one of those things where you have to love it. I guess you don't have to because I guess as you see, there are plenty of people in the industry that are in it for the money. But I
Oh,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you can tell
yeah.
the difference. You can tell the difference between the
You
people
can
that,
absolutely.
yeah, when you need that
Yeah.
steam to like make it, like it is the tough days is really like you say doing what you love that makes it easy and makes you come back, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, right on point with that is I went through Leadership Maryland, this program where I was in there with um agency, Maryland agency, government agency leaders, hospital CEOs, leadership types in there. And we had our first retreat and we were together at a hotel along the Chesapeake Bay one weekend and getting to know each other and sharing what we were doing professionally. And I was outlier in the cannabis industry. And but my background, I started off in finance. I was in banking right after college. I say, you name it, I've studied it. I studied architecture for a period of time while I was raising my kids, and found my way back to the clinical space, which was my first my first major. But in any event, so I was at this this weekend, and two people walked towards me, and I was, dressed up professional, doing my thing. And the bank CEO looks at me and says, Jacquie, what do you call me? You don't look like a stoner. And right. And I said, yeah, 2 startups, graduate school. I get high and eat Doritos and lie on my sofa all day. That's what I do. Right. So I said,
that stigma.
Right. Welcome to the new face of cannabis. And the other woman looked at me, and who actually I just get emotional. I just went to her memorial service over the weekend. And she walked up to me with tears in her eyes. And this is a shout out to Kate Mallory's mom, Michelle. I mean, oh my goodness, blanking out on her name. That's embarrassing. But in any event, she walked up to me and she said, thank you for everything that you do, with tears in her eyes. My daughter was patient number 1 and in Maryland. And so Kate has her patient story is the very first story on CannabizMD on our website. And there's your dog was going to ask. You were doing the video. Yeah.
Somewhere close by.
Yeah, I've got Izzy lying over there. But yeah, it's to why we do this, is that certainly, I mean, it hits me on the clinical side is, we're working so hard to change lives. The civil rights side, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. I don't understand it. People see my white face and assume this is the face of privilege, and 100% not. My dad was an immigrant. He was a World War II vet. And I've shared my story enough, but my grandfather, they were so impoverished that he pulled a horse cart behind him, selling stuff. Yeah, right. And so, but thanks to my dad and what he did, he went to college on the veterans bill back in this would have been the early 50s. Went to medical school, same thing, and inspired me. I mean, I've worked my tail off, so it wasn't all, the coattails of my dad. But yeah, I mean, we share this story and this experience. And that's, just kind of segueing a little bit real quick, is there is this trauma that Black people have with Jewish people, and I have a really powerful, another profile that I did on CannabizMD where we talk about shared trauma.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, going back historically, things like even the foundings of like organizations like the NAACP, right? There was a lot of different collaboration. And like you said, as groups that have really been probably the most well-known stories of genocide, or just people being prosecuted. Right? You talk about the Holocaust, you talk about the slave trade, all those things, and the ongoing, I think, trauma and, pain, like so much stuff that still is
just even like today, what's going on,
Right, that's what I mean. Like,
even
even
going on today.
Right, it's not like stagnant where the stuff stops, right? It still continues.
Yeah. So, so we keep fighting the good fight, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're coming in February 24th and next Saturday, which I'm really excited to see you in person. Real excited about the people that are going to be there that you and I have been working with in the industry, some new folks. But now, you were with the NCIA and things that you've done on advocacy, and now you've got this license that you're opening up your first dispensary in Trenton. And so when are you going to open?
Yes.
Where are you on that?
so literally downstairs, they are I'm surprised you can, thankfully the noise canceling stuff is so you can't hear it. But they are they just finished putting up the walls down there this week. And so now they have to paint and spackle. It's really as quick as they can finish painting this place and then putting up the shelves and cabinets and stuff. We just finished the parking lot and stuff outside last week.
Yeah, so saw that on IG. Yeah.
I still don't have an exact date, but the actual construction should be finished by the end of this month, and they should be finished installing like all the finishes and stuff a couple weeks after that. So probably like early March. And then I know it takes about 30 days is what my like my rep with the commissioner said it will take to
Mhm.
open up after they do their final walkthrough. So it's probably looking like early April-ish. But I still don't have an exact day.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's,
it's a
something really,
5 year journey, right? It's like
yeah,
this dispensary in particular, I put in the application in, man, 2022. But I that quitting that job in finance was in 2019. So I've been working towards this for a long time. You
yeah,
know, man, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
when I was still walking around in a suit on, still at the bank. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it is. As an entrepreneur, and actually I was thinking about it earlier, where the SEA, a social equity applicant,
Mhm.
and I was saying, you know what? Like you, as my kids say, when some of the times, and my kids who are referred to as grown ass women now, but when I right when I say
Oh,
something
yeah.
nutty,
No.
yeah, we both share that, the three daughters.
Mhm.
Um, but when my kids will say something in reaction to what I say, you heard it worst here. But it should be social equity entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what it is. And that it is not easy. It is not easy. And I always say, that you have to be a little bit of crazy to be an entrepreneur. Because I know for me, I'm working 80 hours, so I don't have to go get a job that I know I'll be earning far more money at than what I'm doing now. But I am so passionate about what I'm doing that I've been willing to give up a lot, and crossed over financial lines that I absolutely should not have crossed over. So I know you've done that too. What's
Yeah,
that?
I said you and me both. Yeah, I said
Right.
every 401k, every savings, every whatever it could be has been run through completely. And
Yeah.
I think both of us, I would say, Jackie, to give you your flowers too, it is a testament to like hard work and perseverance, because I know that the work and what you do and what you put out is far more than like anything that you get back in return from a financial
Oh,
compensation
yeah.
standpoint, right?
Thank you.
It's about from the heart, it's from the
Right.
love. You're doing this. Like you don't have to. You could be doing whatever. And I think also at the same time, like that, not giving up, because look, like I said, like we said in starting this out in 2019, you and I both applied for those licenses.
Was it 2018? It was
2018, right? Like shit,
2018.
how old that is, and but you're
Yeah.
still doing it, right? Like you're
Yeah.
still here. You didn't give up, and you continue to reinvent yourself and like still work at it and get better and better in your craft, right? Like
Right.
even after you're like you feel like some stuff, you still keep going. Like you were in that first class of the were you the first class in
Yeah,
university?
I was the first class of
Yeah.
the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, Masters of Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics, the MCST,
Yeah.
which actually right now I'm mid semester in a course that I absolutely love as a TA. And it is what is it? Federal state uh, uh, federal state, where I always forget the name of state and federal cannabis laws and policies. There it is, MCSD 610. But you know what? Is that I love being engaged, is that meeting the students and to see where where the student body how the program has evolved, who's in the program, what we're writing about now, or the students are writing about, is learning how to advocate and writing position papers. And then I continue to learn. Lead professor Matt Camps, shout out. He's an IP attorney, cannabis focused. He's got a personal connection with cannabis or medical cannabis. His mom succumbed to breast cancer, and he has that personal connection with, brings a lot of people into the industry. As when heads change, right? That stigma is removed when somebody they have a loved one or so and so, they see it firsthand, that the impact that medical cannabis has had.
Yep.
It's not just about all fun and games of getting high, right?
Man, tell me about it.
No.
It is. It is. That really is what changes the game for a lot of people. Even people that are around cannabis, and part of it, like you said, that it just changes because you start to look at it differently, right? Like that's what made me start to even look and think about medical cannabis. Like I had been smoking weed for years,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't until my dad had to, we were looking at medical cannabis, and that made me start researching and learning and going down these rabbit holes and doing all this stuff. And I think we're of course we're just all starting to scratch the surface and really know what cannabis can even do, so that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. Is that what we're on the forefront of? And I've been actually doing a lot of writing and talking about rescheduling from 1 to 3, which I think is descheduling, not going to happen. We're not going to go away, and I'm not in favor of it either. Is that cannabis with the U.S. Health and Human Services, they came out, they recognize that cannabis does have medical benefit, so we need to treat it as a medicine. And so that's actually a great segue into the question for you, which is what we're going to be talking about during the symposium, is servicing the medical cannabis patients. So I'm very familiar here in Maryland with the regs require the dispensaries to have hours set aside so that the medical cannabis patients can access the dispensary. And then also there needs to be products set aside for the medical cannabis patients. With that, I always say about policy is there's policy, there's the compliance, and then there's enforcement. And those 3 things don't always happen, but in the perfect world that they would. So what's the deal in New Jersey, and what are you doing for medical cannabis patients?
Yeah, so in New Jersey, most of the dispensaries, well, I'll say a lot of the dispensaries that are open now, were medical dispensaries and then converted to adult use. So when adult use first launched in New Jersey, there were 12 dispensaries that were medical, that were the first to convert to adult use, and then slowly others afterwards. So if in New Jersey, if you are a medical dispensary, then you're required to have set like products set aside, and like you said, hours, same way, hours in the opening part of the day and the closing part of the day that are exclusive for medical patients. You also have to have separate lines,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
things like that for medical patients, also for them to be able to have access. Now the license that I have, which was like one of the newer ones, like that, from after post legalization, we're just straight up adult use. So we're not required to have like any type of set aside medical hours or anything like that. But for me, like trying to make sure that we are accommodating, accommodating the medical patients is something that's important to me. Like you said, trying to make sure that they can get discounts on products, and because one of the things that I really hear a lot about is like the access to the cost of access to
Yes.
medicine.
Right.
So
Right.
that's
Like this is not a reimbursed medicine. This is, can be, I would say cannabis is not benign, doesn't work for everybody, but it absolutely can be a life-saving medicine for some people.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, just accommodations. Like I said, recognizing that the people that are using cannabis medically are patients, so trying to make sure that we can be respectful and like just create an environment where they can be safe, healthy, tested, and a lot of education. I think a lot of what's missing in the industry so much is the education aspect, and that's extremely critical to patients. Um, we still got a lot of people talking about indica sativa, right? We got people talking about the THC like percentage, right? Like all these different things. And more than anything, like you said, understanding the science of it, like what cannabinoids, what terpenes are people looking at to try to help them. So one of the ways that we really want to go above and beyond is trying to, and it's part of the tradition of what Simply Pure, shout out to Wanda, has always been about, is like that taking that next step in the education. We want to make
Yes.
sure that we can educate our staff so that we can in turn educate consumers so that we can be the top choice that people are looking for when they want to try to choose what they need. Because I'll say personally, it's not a good experience when you go into a dispensary and you ask a question because you're trying to find something specific and they're like, oh, this is 30%. I was like, bro, that's not what I asked.
Plus, that's a lie. It can't test there.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, this is what you need, so like I said, just trying to train and do stuff differently. I think that's one of the things that I really
Yeah. Good for
would like to
you.
focus on for sure, the
Yeah.
education aspect of
Yeah,
it.
and that is, dips into another thing that we're going to be another topic of discussion, and it's going to weave its way through the symposium. Again, this is education, which hits, critically important. As I said, that's what I'm all about. And with that, this is the impact of that IRC rule, the Internal Revenue Code 280E, where licensed cannabis businesses cannot write off education.
Hmm.
And so for their staff. And so,
They
they're
can't write off anything except for cost of goods sold. So,
yeah, hitting that
that makes
bottom line. Yeah.
it.
Um, yeah, so this is this will be one of the significant benefits of the rescheduling of 1 to 2. And I believe, again, you heard it worst here, is that my interpretation, what I'm reading with the federal regs, as best I'm not a lawyer, but I am
Said disclaimer.
yeah, I'm a policy geek. And but that medical cannabis businesses will be legal under federal law. So 280E will not apply to them. That said, then recreational or adult use will still be illegal. So those businesses will not be able to, they'll still have 280E. So then I believe smart money, you got to pay attention to the medical lane. I think you're looking ahead there's been this movement in the industry for brands and building these brands with an adult use, somebody being the face of it. But I think I'm very excited with the medical part, the medical lane, and then people get really concerned about, well, the pharmaceutical industry is going to come in and ruin everything. And I don't think so. Yeah, there are going to be some big mergers and acquisitions taking place, but we need to take the knowledge assets of the 4 industries that are part of what we do, which is the legacy industry, healthcare, technology, and the pharmaceutical industry. And each one of these industry, positively, if you do it right and work together. But like you said, and this goes into another question for you, and you have this great quote about picking the right partner and picking the right people that you work with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so for one, when it comes to legalization, or whether we talk about rescheduling or descheduling, Lord knows I hope that 280E also impacts adult use slash
Yeah. No,
because
and that's right.
so for that really is one of the biggest challenges in the industry. And for me as an operator, one of the key areas of opportunity that I see with rescheduling, of course, descheduling would be the first choice. Making it so that nobody is getting penalties whatsoever for weed. But I do think when we talk about something that's been that we've had all the propaganda for all these years has been illegal, is not very likely that they ever just going to hit the switch. They hit
Right.
the switch and legalize
Right.
it.
Right.
But I do also think that I think one of these will give the opportunity to dispel a lot of the myths. And I think also at the same time, look, when we look at cannabis being descheduled, there's nothing that's going to stop these companies from coming into the industry even then, right? And when we talk about economics, I think no matter what we do or how it's structured, it's inevitable that some of these outside forces are going to come into cannabis. That's why it's important that we can educate our businesses and do what we can to be prepared. But also that's why advocacy importance that we're active, so that we are, when these rules are coming into place, that we can have a seat at the table, have our voice heard, kind of be to let our position be known on what should go into it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's these legislators, they need to hear from us. And what the rules look like when a system gets implemented is it all happens by, whose voices they hear as it goes. So that's one of the things I'll say I'm certainly hopeful and hoping to lend my voice to some of these conversations. Again, and it's progress, right? I think that the more we can normalize and get closer to cannabis not being, illegal or, all those things, like you said, being Schedule 1, I think it helps to normalize it and helps push it towards, finally getting towards that descheduling. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my
Yeah,
two.
so for our audience, Schedule 1 being the most prohibitive of the CSA, where cannabis is up there with peyote, having no medical value, and then Schedule 3 moves into this classification where it's then prescribed. And healthcare providers like MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners, dentists who have prescribing privileges will then be able to prescribe cannabis. And with that is just so much opportunity, and that what that very necessary, we're talking about as education for the folks that work in the industry, but this is where I really jump to and has been my focus. And that's the MD in CannabizMD is medical. I actually going to see my sister, who's an orthopedic surgeon. I'm going to see her in a couple months. And I've always said I was scared of her well into my 50s. She was 6 years older, or is 6 years older than me. Used to torture me and all sorts of things. And when I was growing up, in the 70s, she and my oldest sister, who, man, I wish, I knew she was alive now with what I know about cannabis, but I lost her to breast cancer. I've lost, this is part of my drive too. I've actually lost my mom, my sister, my dad to cancer. And, but I grew up with, Jackie, don't smoke weed. You'll never get into medical school. Jackie, don't smoke weed, blah, 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 blah. And so my brother-in-law has Parkinson's now. And when I talk to my sister, it's like, this arched eyebrow, where my niece, who has joined her practice, and she's an orthopedic surgeon, and she's in her, how old is she? She's probably 34, 35, something like that. No, 37. And young enough. And she understands the benefit, smoked weed when she was a kid. My sister, I know her history. I'm not going to share it on a Zoom, but, but I am going to have some weed with me, and with my brother-in-law, take one hit. You're not going to die. And there's a really famous video, within the industry, I don't know if you've seen it, where there's a man who's tremoring with his Parkinson's. He takes it
immediately. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is like you said, it's from all these years of like stigma that we have that make people scared. Like the way they talk about it, you would think that it's nuclear or something.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And there's another gentleman with a story that, knowing him, when we talk about the good people that are in the industry, to this one who have been in this industry, is Ed Weidenfeld, who I have his story in CannabizMD. Ed was an owner operator here in Maryland, DC. He got District Cannabis, giving them a shout out, off the ground. And Ed worked for Reagan. Ed worked under a number of presidents. I think he was like the lead attorney maybe for Reagan's campaign. And he shared the story about when Nancy Reagan, just the insanity that they had, right? Just Say No to Drugs, which is like the most expensive failed education program, ever. And he recognized that it was all racially biased bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I think it was his son's best friend introduced him to cannabis, and eventually succumbed to his Parkinson's. But it was a driver for him, is that it treated, he used it as a medicine. So, the more that we get out and talk about it, normalize it, destigmatize it. There's Izzy.
I was about to say, I was just going to say the same thing. I was just about
Izzy made his appearance. Well, we can keep talking and talking. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in a week. And if you had, what would be your best advice to somebody who is crazy enough to do what we're doing, is to be an entrepreneur in the cannabis industry? Whatever it is, whether you're going to license, whether you're going to be an ancillary business owner.
My number one piece of advice, and I want to say my number one piece of advice that I would do is to, learn. I think one of the most important things to know, as crazy as it sounds, the cannabis industry, when we talk about like industry, like the weed is cannabis is just a small little part of it, right? So it's like, for example, I love weed, whatever, but what is your thing? Like figuring out your path, your niche. And going back to saying that to say like, again, if you love business, if you love advocacy, you can be that. Do everything you can, learn about it, right? Like learn about the movements that are going on. If you love marketing, try to learn everything about marketing that's going on. Surround yourself with people that are doing it. Uh, and same thing for any field, whether it's accounting or technology or I feel like I wanted to try to figure out how to say something different, but it really is still the best advice that I can say from my personal experience. Just fully immersing yourself in whatever lane you want to be in and trying to learn everything about that because we're still so new, especially like if you're in a new state where it comes and you're like you make yourself the expert on blank thing, it
Right,
is likely that you will be the first or most well-known expert in your whole
right,
state. And if you're the man or woman or top person in your state, then guess what? That makes it easy to go be the person nationally that everybody's
right.
going.
That's
It's
great
especially when
advice.
they
Yes.
might not exist, right? Like I think uh you know, like also like don't compare yourself to other people, kind of run your own race. And that's a cannabis advice or not. Because I think like when I look at like myself, for example, 2018, like when I came in looking at the market, there wasn't anybody kind of doing what I did and leaned into that. So just you got to run your own race, be true to yourself, the things that you're passionate about. And I think everything flows from that and you'll find a place. And also, I'll say perseverance, as in don't get down. This is one industry I know people as
Ooh,
a
yeah.
cliche say you got to fail and fall down and get back up. But in this industry in particular, if you talk to anybody, like even the top most successful people, they will likely tell you a story about how they failed or took an L or didn't get it multiple times.
Yeah.
Uh, and even still taking them today as they're in this position, right? So this is one of those things where it's not for the faint of heart. But it is a community of, like I said, so many great people that you love, relationships you'll have. It's like family. Uh and the rewards, if you can be successful and you can win, of course, like anything else, you get to reap the benefits of your labor and hard work. So
Yeah, I'm
that
with you on that one. Is 100% on that passion. It's all about the education. Somebody said to me once, early on when my profile started rising in the industry, he's like, Jacquie, what are you doing? You're everywhere. And, where I'm in science, I'm in policy, it was, to be a subject matter expert, which is what I want to be, because I want to drive this industry moving forward. I want to know as much as I can know. And I've been blessed with a shit ton of energy. My goal is to always use for greater good than evil. I haven't killed anybody yet. So we're being, that's all right. I might have driven some people crazy, but I haven't killed anybody yet. But, to your point, as I was looking around, I have this big bulletin board in front of me that's got a whole lot of inspirational things. And I'm looking for this photograph that I have where I'm not a black diamond skier, but I had the opportunity I was skiing in Europe. And I'm also I have a terrible sense of direction. I'm I call it dyslexic, so I am dyslexic, and I found myself at the start of a black diamond, and I was in France in the French Alps, and I thought, when the F am I ever going to have the opportunity to ski a black diamond in France? And that is the way I have every intention. I did it. I'm going to fall
you
somehow.
did it.
I did it. I fell, I slid on my butt, but at the end I was standing upright. And that is a driver for me, is that, I'm in it and yeah, I'm tumbling. I've gotten in very scary financial situations. Is like, oh, to my kids, there ain't gonna be nothing left for you characters. But
Until there is, until you hit
true.
that big one and there's everything for them, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then now I have that grandbaby. So, my kids, I raised them with mommy spices,
Mm,
right? That's what I called it. It was in the freezer.
yeah.
And now I'm calling it, which we haven't had it. She's 2 months old today, my granddaughter. But I refer to it as Bubby spices. And so
Is that your grandma name, Bubby?
Bubby, I decided to go old school. Yeah.
I love hearing the grandma
Yeah.
he comes up with. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's
she's like, nobody, her other grandmother isn't Jewish, and Bubby's an old school Jewish name, and that's it, So yeah, she's the cutest blue-eyed baby, 2-month-old baby on the planet today. There's a lot of cool, cute babies, but yeah.
the
And she's named after my mom.
grandmas are a blessing, man. That has been that if anything, that one of my biggest blessings in being back home to do this is being close to my grandmother.
Yeah.
Because she's 93 years old now.
Wow.
And she's like the stages of dementia and all that stuff. And but one thing she does know for sure is that I'm opening this store.
That's what
No matter
I
what she
wanted.
forgets, she remembers that. She knows that for sure.
So what did she
No,
say? We could keep talking. How long have we been talking? I want to keep this.
Who
Keep this.
knows, man? I know the last thing yesterday, she was just like, Tahir, look like this thing ain't never going to get open, huh? I was like, I don't know, man.
Well, what did she say about a woman who, that's why I named my ladies Sister Ruth and Louise, with where two women that were alive, two grandmothers. One, Louise, was mine. Sister Ruth was a literal nun. And these were two single women who were alive when physicians prescribed cannabis. They were alive when cannabis became illegal. They're alive during the civil rights movement. And so your grandmother is a Black woman, and
Yeah.
everything that your community's gone through, then you're opening up a weed store. Does she
Yeah.
recognize this?
So I would say with her, she's one of those old school people, right? Like she's come to accept it now. Like if I smoke around her now, I'm full adult and I'm always in this, but always growing up, she was like, y'all need to stop with them weeds and all of that stuff. And in her case, she has probably contributed more bail money to me and my brother. or like whatever, paying the
She
fine
saw something
not
in
than
you.
anybody.
She sees it in
So
you.
yeah, so if anything, she, that's probably something that she'll never forget. But that is one of the things. It's also the biggest blessing where my family can now get to see just another side to see me being successful with this because again, again, the same municipal building that I go in several times a week now, like dealing with all these, whether it's the mayor or council people or the construction office or something else, is the same building where the police station is, where they had to come plenty of.
Wow.
So
I just got goosebumps. That's powerful.
it's a blessing. So it's something that I think about all the time
Yeah, yeah.
going into that building. So I'm just always thankful.
Yeah, and I have I don't know, if somebody would zoom in, but I have photographs of my dad and my mom, and I have some of my dad's medical school books that, I think about that my parents, they died before I came into the legal side of the industry, and what they would say, but that they raised me absolutely passionate for civil rights, and being Jewish, that the persecution that my ancestors went through, that my dad, myself went through, and it's really powerful and personal, and it is, to keep these drivers of our ancestors,
Yeah.
and then move it forward. You've got your daughters now, and for them to see what you're doing. How about your daughters? So how old are they, and how are you talking to them about what you do?
My oldest one is 9, Ava. My middle daughter Aria is 6. My baby girl Autumn, she'll be 2,
Oh,
May. So with them, like like I talk to them about like the business, like they know cannabis, but I don't think they know exactly what it is. My daughters, to be honest, they wouldn't even know, excuse me, that cannabis is this thing that ever had a negative stigma or anything like that, because the only way they've ever heard it talked about is like this is daddy's job or business.
Yeah.
A plant, like, for them, all the negative things that people would say or think about it, they don't even know that that's a thing. And I love that for them.
Yes.
Like they
Yeah.
won't ever get to have that, kind of that experience. And then, for them, one of the things that I love is, especially like my leadership team here is a lot of strong, experienced Black women. Like,
Great.
Wanda James, working
Yes.
for her, Tiffany Lynette, who are my HR and operations. Like, the people in my leadership team that are helping me run this show are a lot of women, and they've had the opportunity to see that. And so, like I love for them to just have those examples, right? And again, for me, taking it back to my grandmother, she was one of my examples of a strong person and perseverance to make it, and that's what always inspires me. I think of her. She she has a third grade education. She was a factory worker her whole life. She moved up from South Carolina by herself, I think, with a lunch and a brown paper bag and $11 to her name, and made it, and made this whole family and everything that came from that. So when I think about how hard something could ever be for me, I know that nothing I've ever done or had to do is ever probably as hard of a day or even a minute of what she had to go through to get to where she is. So I try to let that be my driver, and hopefully I can make it something soon enough to take care of people like her that have done so much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I have it's great, and that's what makes you a good, kind man, I believe, is that when you have good, strong women that have raised you. And my grandmother's story, she was one of seven to survive. It was before the Nazis. They were called pogroms,
Mm,
but that same mentality, was coming and eviscerating genocide on Jewish people. And she was one of seven to survive a pogrom, where she was told at age 15, run or you're going to get your throat slit. And
mm,
she immigrated from a village that is now Belarus as a 15-year-old to London, where they told her she was too ugly and too skinny. They knocked out her teeth, replaced it with wooden teeth. That bothered her for the rest of her life. From there, she went to Montreal, and it was to marry her off. That was survival for women at that time. And so I think she could do that at 15. No, and through that, right? And yeah, we have this, and shout outs to our bubbies. What do you call?
yeah. I call
I call
mine.
her Grandma Chicken
Yeah.
Soup. What do you call your grandmother?
I call her Nana. Yeah.
Nana. Yeah. Well, I say let's sign off, and here's to all the nanas and bubbies, and
Yes. And
Grandma Chicken Soup's on the planet.
yes, for sure. Love
All
you,
right.
Jacquie. Looking forward to next week.
Love you too. I'll see you next week. Thanks to hear.
Bye.